Hey guys, how's it going? This is Kevin Asani, and this is the Progressive Square. And this is the first episode of the Progressive Square. I'm basically going to be reviving my old show, which was before it was the Progressive Experience. This is the newer version where it's going to be a lot more interactive. It's going to be involving a lot more talking to people that want to, if they choose to, interact on the kind of live version we got going on here. I got one on Facebook Live, and then I got one on Periscope, so people can chime in and then they can give their take. And I'm just going to be sitting here just talking and saying whatever I feel like saying, and you guys can say whatever you want to say. And if I have a chance, which I'm sure I will, I'll respond to anything that you guys have to say, and I would love for you guys to interact with me. So that would be great. So let's just jump into the news here. So obviously, a lot of you know, Joe Biden decided to run. Joe Biden is in the race. He took him a while to finally decide that he was going to run. And I think he was initially kind of feeling the process out, trying to see where it goes. Maybe he wasn't sure, how much support he was going to get, especially from big donors and everything. So he definitely was feeling the process out. I don't know if there's going to be any other people running. At least no more big names. There's no more big names that are going to be running, I don't think. Those people have all pretty much declared. There's a couple people here and there that are just like totally irrelevant that are have decided to run, like Seth Moulton and Eric Swalwell, who's a big like Russiagate conspiracy theorist. Amy Klobuchar, Cloud Boot Jar, as Kyle Kalinske refers to her. Obviously, you got what's his name, Buttigieg, Pete Buttigieg. He's on there. That's about it. Beto O'Rourke, who I like to refer to as Beto Obama, he is running as well. But and after a really strong kind of start, as far as in the kind of like the media landscape, everybody was kind of like fawning over him in the media. He hasn't been really getting anywhere. Yeah, so Beto is obviously running. Buttigieg is running. Like I said, Seth Moulton, Eric Swalwell. I think there's another guy named Rob Delaney or something. John Delaney, something is running. So like all these different people are running. But obviously Biden being the most prominent guy to recently run. Let's discuss that a little bit. So Biden, he obviously ran in 2008, when Obama obviously ended up becoming the nominee. Hillary was in there. Even Mike Gravel was there. Mike Gravel is a very fascinating guy that's running right now, and he's very anti-establishment, very anti-war, anti-imperialism, anti-interventionism, and he's somebody that everybody is really enjoying, and kind of seeing as a little bit of a spoiler, I guess, in a way, in the sense that he's not going to get a lot of votes, but I mean, he's going to be somebody that is going to be able to sway, if he managed to get into the debates, he's going to be able to sway the way the debates go, and if things are going to be kind of like, like what kind of things are they going to talk about? Like if you got a guy like that coming in, he's going to be somebody that can obviously, get people to talk about those issues. Like I said, stuff regarding interventionism and stuff like that. So, being anti-war and whatnot. But as far as Biden goes, he ran in 2008. He ran in 1988, and it was actually amazing because I was reading up on it, and it was amazing how quickly in 1988 he actually ended up dropping out because there was some sort of scandal involving him plagiarizing a speech or something, and he got caught for plagiarism. He had to respond to it and had to answer it for it and stuff. It was quite embarrassing, and like I don't even know how he was doing in the polls, obviously, because it was 1988. But I mean, from what I read, there was nothing about how well he did in the polls, but it was it was a very quick exit for him, and he really just I don't even think anybody even realized he was in the race, honestly, back then. I mean, from what I remember from 2008, nobody even talked about him running, before. So, obviously he was in the Senate and everything, and then eventually Obama chose him as his VP, and then, honestly, when he ran in 2008, I thought he was pretty decent based on his rhetoric. I thought he was a good choice as a VP choice for Obama, but that was at a time that I was just completely clueless on what candidates are sellouts and what candidates are good, what candidates are bad. I mean, that was so long ago. I was just totally caught up in the kind of the mainstream hype of all these Obama type candidates, as far as speaking good and saying the right things. And Biden said the right things. Hillary, I never liked. I thought Hillary sucked from the very beginning. No matter what she did or said, she was just horrible. But yeah, Obama at the time, obviously for a lot of people my age, my generation, Obama was the guy that everybody liked. And Biden was kind of like the old grandpa that's looking over him and kind of guiding him in certain ways. And unfortunately now that fucking grandpa wants to run for president. And it's fine if he's old. I really don't have anything against him being old. But the fact that he is a big time sellout, he pretends to be really I'm the union guy and I'm the guy that's gonna be standing up for regular people. He doesn't do that shit. That's not the way he fucking operates at all. He's a poser, he's a poser. He's a fake. He's not somebody that you can actually trust, but he pretends to have all that kind of grassroots support. And I don't know, I think there was an interview or something, or some kind of quote coming from him. He's like, yeah, I'm just as progressive as Bernie Sanders is. I can show my record, and if you look at my record, it's just as good as Bernie Sanders. But then maybe if it was in that interview or another interview or something like that, he said, yeah, I'm not a progressive, I'm not a democratic socialist like Bernie Sanders. I don't think the 500 billionaires and millionaires, or however many he said, that are that are out there that are, I don't think they're the problem. So the guy is he's totally out of touch, and he's totally trying to cater to all these specific people that he knows is going to help get him over the top. And so according to his fundraising numbers after he declared running, let me just check that real quick. As many of you know, Bernie Sanders raised $220,000 within the first 24 hours. So apparently, that's a big figure that they're going based on, within that first 24 hours. They try to go based on how much money that person raised within the first 24 hours, and Bernie Sanders said it initially in 2016, raising $1.5 million, which completely obliterated Hillary's fundraising numbers back then, which I don't know what they were, but it was much higher. I wouldn't be surprised if it was much higher than hers. And then, and then this time around, Kamala Harris declared before Bernie did, and Bernie. So she, I think, ended up getting I think 1.7 or 1.8. I forgot, around 2 million or so. And then Bernie beat that by getting 5.9 million. So now it's kind of been a race for who's going to get the biggest amount. And a lot of the other candidates haven't gotten anywhere close. So Bernie did get 5.9 million. It was reported when Beto O'Rourke declared, he ended up raising, I think he raised, he was 6.1 million or 6 million, somewhere around 6 million. And he actually he raised 6.1 million and outraised Bernie. But the difference was, first of all, he didn't want to declare, he didn't want to tell people how much his campaign had raised within that first 24 hours. So after the first 24 hours, people were asking him, how much did you do? How well did you do? And he didn't want to say. And he literally like got asked it. He got asked that, and he just declined. He was like, "Oh, I choose not to tell you. I choose not to say how much I raised." And so when that happened, it became a little bit fishy. People were like, "Wait, that's kind of strange. Why wouldn't you just tell people how much money you're raising? It's not really that big of a deal. If you ended up beating Bernie, you would have said that from the very beginning." And no, but it turns out he had much less people donating to him. I think he had 130,000, I believe, and then Bernie had 223,000. And Bernie's average donation was $27, which is very common because that's what he was getting last time too in 2016, and $27 per donor. I also gave him $27 as well, and then according to the article I'm reading here, Biden raised 6.3 million. Yeah, 6.3 million, and his average donation was $41. And I believe Beto's was 37, I think. So I'm gonna have to check that. But yeah, so and then the individual the number of donors Beto O'Rourke had was 90. I'm sorry, that Joe Biden has one was 96,000. So almost 97,000, 96,926. So, and it also says that's how many people contributed, and some 61% of donations were new and did not come from the pre-existing email list. So my prediction was so same with the same case that happened with Beto O'Rourke, happened the same thing with Joe Biden. They both were not able to reach the individual limits as far as the individual donors that like Bernie had. So they had to go to like one of their best buddies and their rich friends out there that can give them a bunch of money. And then since they knew they couldn't beat that, okay, well, we'll beat Bernie's thing, going over 6 million, but we're not going to get as many donors. We're not going to get as many contributors. But they're like, to them, and like, obviously the media is reporting it as like, oh yeah, Joe Biden outraised everybody, and, he did better than everybody else. And, he's got 6.3 million and Bernie has 5.9. Yeah, but don't you want to point out that, like, do they ever like even bother dealing with the average donation from every donor and then the number of donors? No, because they know that's going to go against the establishment narrative, and they know that's not going to, it's not going to look right, because it's going to go against the person that, it's going to go against the candidates that they want to win. They definitely don't want Bernie to win, obviously, as everybody knows. So they definitely want these kind of candidates to win. So they just kind of gloss over the number of donors. They gloss over the average donations. They're like, yeah, 6.3 million. Great job, Joe Biden. Awesome job, Gropey Joe over there, And so let's go into that. So I don't know, what was it, like a few weeks ago, less than a month ago, one of the former I think she was a staffer working for Bernie, but she had also ran in 2014 for the Senate seat in Nevada, and Joe Biden had come to Nevada to campaign for her, and her name is Lucy Flores, and she a few weeks ago she released wrote an article, and she talked about how Joe Biden made some what she felt were sexual advances on her, and she put that out there, and people just flipped out in the establishment. People, the typical kind of Democratic establishment, Democratic like loyalists, the people that are just out there on Twitter who are just like pro Hillary, pro Democrat, talking about smearing Bernie and stuff. They were like, oh my God, you couldn't say this to him privately? Why did you have to come out with it publicly? Yeah, like, it's so easy when a woman gets touched and groped and felt by some old dude, especially let alone the vice president of the United States, as if it's so easy for this person to just come out and, first of all, say it in private. Why would you want to say it to him in private? Like, why would you even want to do that? What difference would it make? Oh yeah, you really made me feel uncomfortable. He's probably going to just tell you he's probably going to laugh and tell you to fuck off. In so many words. He's probably not going to take it very seriously, though. So for anybody to really think that, like, Lucy Flores should have come out, should have done it differently. That's just ridiculous. I'm not even going to entertain that idea. But the fact that she came out with this allegation was very, very significant, because not only, after she came out with her allegations, she was the first one to do it, and I think it was like 3 or 4 other women did the same exact thing. They came out and said, that what's his name, did the same thing. You know, he felt me, on my neck, and he touched me and grabbed me around my waist. And there are many videos. Like, it's not like it's like some, like, best kept secret, or unknowns, because some kind of secret that nobody's ever heard about. Joe Biden being some like weird, creepy guy. Like, we've seen, like, many people, anybody can tell you they've seen footage of Joe Biden, doing creepy things, standing there, behind somebody, putting his arm around their neck, and touching them weird, and doing some bunch of crazy weird shit. And it's just like, and he does this in public. And he, whether or not he's sexually assaulting somebody is not the point. Whether he's making them feel, touching them inappropriately is not necessarily. That's not necessarily the objection. Of course it is, but it's not. That's not the main thing. It's like it's not like we're saying, like, oh, he's a sexual harasser. That's no, it's not like anybody's saying Biden is beating women, because there's been articles that are coming out that are saying, like, oh, well, who was that? Like Alyssa Milano, the actress in Hollywood. She's coming out saying, oh, he was such a great guy. He was such a nice guy to me when I met him, and I did this. And she shows a picture. She shows a picture with him. I don't know, some event or something. Or I think she was doing her podcast. Oh, he's such a nice guy, and he's always shown respect to me. Yeah, okay, maybe he's a really nice guy, but with certain women, he knows. He feels like he can touch them in places, in weird places in weird ways. And even little kids, too. There's videos of that, too, which is really fucking weird. Like, there's videos of him, like, touching, like, the under breast of, like, some poor little girl. It's, like, really, really creepy. So why this person feels like they can do this, I don't know. He's obviously doing it unknowingly. He doesn't even know that he's doing it. That's stupid. He can't figure it out. But he's doing this, and, somebody comes out with it. It's a woman comes out with it, and he, all of these people that, honestly, I don't even think they support Biden necessarily, but they're just like, oh, he's a Democrat. So they have to back him. They have to deny any, deny anything that he's done wrong. And he's like, perfectly, he's a saint, and, how dare you say anything bad about him because he's a Democrat. So, and these are the same kind of people who are going to be like, oh, well, Trump does really bad things. Trump is a really creepy guy. Okay, well, that's fine. Trump can be a creepy guy. Biden can be a creepy guy. You can name any other Republican that can be creepy. But that doesn't absolve the Democrat, what the Democrat did. So the Democrat can do whatever he wants. And then and we have to overlook it because he's a Democrat. But the Republican, oh no, he's totally a creepy guy, and he's totally, anti-abortion and stuff. And it's not like there's not anti-abortion Democrats. We call them out too. So any kind of person that does something that's in people's eyes immoral and wrong, you call it out. You're not gonna sit there and just be like, because he's a Democrat, it's okay. He's inherently a good person, and we're going to forgive whatever he said and did, and that's okay. No problem. So let's go to some of the viewer questions here. Thank you for giving your take to me. Let's see. Daniel Fernandez says, I read an article called "I'm Running for President. Joe Biden whispers in the ears of an uncomfortable nation." Yeah, that's I guess that article would be by my president. I think I heard that article, but I wonder if you could let me know where you got that one from, Daniel. I would appreciate it. Maybe I read the same one. Maybe actually, you know what? I can look it up right now. Let's check it out. Let's see. I'm running for president. Joe Biden whispers into the ears of an uncomfortable nation. Hey, here it is. What is this? The Beaverton? Never even heard of that publication, but thank you. This is by Mary Gillis. Never heard of her. Joe Biden announced. So it says Joe Biden announced his third run for the Democratic presidential nomination. Thinking his arms around the waist of the United States of America. Yeah, that sounds pretty awkward and pretty accurate. We need to put aside what divides us, come together, the challenges when your country. I actually didn't watch his introductory video yet. I'm going to have to do that. Maybe we can even play it here. Okay, when the nation realized it's time, no matter how they felt about it, they figured out they might as well take the opportunity. That's sounds like a satire article. Yeah. Said the nation. Yeah, it is pretty much a satire article. I guess that's what the Beaverton is. That doesn't sound like a real publication. But that's good. There should be something like this. I'm sure there's something like this in the Onion, too. I wouldn't be surprised. Well, thank you for that, Daniel. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty accurate. I mean, he pretty much is doing that. I mean, he is wrapping his arms around the arms of a nation that I don't know what his favorability numbers are. Now, he is polling higher than Bernie Sanders. To be fair, you got to give him credit. He is not polling badly. That's not. It's not like a matter of like, oh, well, he's, some long shot, like kind of like Beto Obama, kind of like, Buttigieg and Klobuchar and all that stuff. Yeah, like those people probably don't have that good of a chance. And those people running doesn't make much sense. Now, Biden running, yeah, to his credit, he's polling pretty well. He is polling higher than Bernie. But not by much. It's only like a few points, I think, from what I remember. And there's a lot of polling that's been done that's shown like Biden is polling higher, but then the respondents they're asking are like, oh yeah, we're asking a bunch of like 45 and over people. So like non-millennials, like they don't even factor in millennials. So they don't factor in the millennials. They don't factor in the kind of just general young people and maybe I don't know who else. But they don't ask people like me. And they figure, okay, well, we can pull the wool over the eyes of the idiots who they think are idiots. I mean, we're obviously not idiots. We're much more well-researched than a lot of boomers out there. And I've seen that, I've seen that proven many, many times. Whenever you talk to a fucking Hillary supporter and a Democratic loyalist, a lot of them are boomers and a lot of them are idiots. And the same as the Republicans, just kind of like boomers in general, just not very bright people. But yeah, like a lot of times when you ask us, though, we know when we're being fooled. We know when we're being fucked with and treated like we're idiots. So if they want to try that shit, that's not going to work. But at the same time, it's interesting that they keep trying these things. So I remember back to 2016. One second. I remember back to 2016 when the Washington Post released 16 negative articles in 16 hours on Bernie Sanders. I mean, that was almost unprecedented. And still to this day, the Washington Post is pretty much anti-Bernie. Like, they don't like Bernie at all. They just can't stand the guy. They just see Bernie as like this thorn in the side of the establishment, which is great. But the Washington Post is the establishment. They are embedded deep within the establishment, the confines of the establishment and the confines of the deep state, the CIA, the NSA, the FBI, like anything that you want to see. So anytime you want to see the narrative of what is going on within typical politicians, typical corporatist type politicians, you go to the Washington Post. That is where you get your main your daily fix of bullshit coming from those kind of sneaky assholes that you and me can't stand. Progressives can't stand. And they wrote those articles, and man, it was unprecedented. I mean, it was crazy that they were writing that many articles in a 16-hour period, and it was just a bunch of bullshit. It was like, I'll look it up right now and I'll show you guys. It was hilarious. I think the FAIR, which is Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting, which is a very good website run by a bunch of kind of lefty progressives. It was founded by a lefty progressive, or at least a couple of them, and it was very interesting how they covered that. Let me just look it up real quick. 1 second. Yeah, here it is. Fair.org. Check this out. So look at these headlines. These are hilarious. Just in case you guys haven't heard this before. Hold on 1 second. So look, get ready for this. What Bernie Sanders still doesn't get about arguing with Hillary Clinton. Okay, it's going to get worse. The Daily 202, 5 reasons Bernie Sanders lost last night's Democratic debate. Okay, fine. Bernie Sanders' 2 big lies about the global economy. Mental health patients to Bernie Sanders don't compare us to the GOP candidates? Mental health? Why would Bernie Sanders be comparing mental health patients to the GOP candidate? What the hell does that even mean? Because he says they're crazy? Okay. Clinton is running for president. Sanders is doing something else. Okay. An awkward reality for Bernie Sanders. A strategy focused on wider states. Okay, so let me just pause for a second. When Bernie Sanders was running in 2016, he was going to a lot of this. He was going to a lot of states. He wasn't just going to. What was he supposed to do? Just go to like California, go to like Texas, go to all the diverse states? No, he was going to a lot of the areas in the Rust Belt which were neglected by Hillary Clinton, but which were a lot of times had people's, a lot of those states had people suffering. People, states in the Rust Belt, states like Ohio, Iowa, I don't know, Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin. I guess could be considered wider states. But he was campaigning in all these different states because he knew that he had to reach these kind of voters. But that doesn't mean he's in favor. What is that? Focusing on wider states. He's focusing on the states that you have to get. Why would he be? Well, he would have to be stupid to not go to those states. Now, Hillary Clinton famously, and progressives like myself, we're going to point this out repeatedly. Hillary Clinton did not, in the general election, I don't know about the primary, but the general election, she did not campaign in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, and that's why she lost. That's why she lost to Trump, because those were the states that she did not campaign in, and she lost. Now, I don't know if a Democrat is going to make that mistake again, but if they were, they're going to lose. If they were to do that again, they're definitely going to lose again. Bernie Sanders is not doing that, and he's not doing that with any of those other states I mentioned either. So he's going to have to go there. He's going to go to Texas. He's going to have to go to all the southern states too. He's going to have to go to Alabama, Mississippi, South Carolina, all these different states, and he's doing that currently. So he's going to have to go to Virginia. He's going to go to West Virginia, go talk to coal miners, all that stuff. When Hillary Clinton went to coal miners, she was sitting at the table with coal miners. She said, "We're going to get rid of the coal industry. We're going to wipe out the coal industry." Now that's good if you want to say, yes, we don't want to invest in coal anymore, but you don't put it like that. See, that's the problem with people like Hillary Clinton. Same thing with Joe Biden. I guarantee you, as Daniel just mentioned on the feed here, he says anytime Joe Biden opens his mouth, his poll numbers go down. That's the same exact thing with Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton is no different than Joe Biden. Her and Joe Biden are best friends, by the way. They're BFFs. And they have that same tendency of saying stupid things and then getting lambasted by the people that are like, wait, that's fucked up. Why are you saying that? And people, they get called out and the poll numbers go down. That's exactly what happened to Hillary Clinton. And as people who were listening to Hillary Clinton say stupid shit, and then they listen to somebody like Bernie, like, wow, Bernie, this Bernie guy's Jewish socialist dude over here, this old Jewish socialist dude is making a hell of a lot of sense, and he's fighting for me. He's not going out there and saying some stuff that's offending me or going against my my values or my beliefs. Now he can say I disagree. Bernie can go out there and say he disagrees with with what certain things that I believe, like certain principles I have or certain ideals that I follow, but he's still trying to fight for me. So Bernie trying to get health care for people, but it's not like Bernie is discriminating and saying, no, I'm only going to get health care for people in, coastal states like California and New York. No, he wants to get health care for everybody. He wants to get free education for everybody. He wants to get, a higher minimum wage, or just living wage for everybody. So that's bullshit. But these talking points are typical. Anyway, so I went off into a tangent there a little bit, but let's continue here. It says, the next headline from this Washington Post, these Washington Post headlines says, and the most partisan senator of 2015 is Bernie Sanders. Ooh, that's horrible. Can't have anybody partisan. The next one is, excuse me, I'm talking. Bernie Sanders shuts down Hillary Clinton repeatedly. So, again, that's another thing. I'll just say quickly. What happened in the debates was Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders in 2016 were arguing. They were doing their debates, and then he was saying, I'm talking, and she's interrupting him. And she said, and he's like, excuse me. And then everybody flipped out, and he's like, oh, he's such a sexist. And he's such a, misogynist, and he's talking down to this woman. So when the woman talks, you shouldn't say anything. I'm sorry, when the woman is interrupting, you should just sit there and just let her interrupt you, apparently. Okay. Yeah, let's see how that works when it's a Republican woman. So if a Republican woman is in a debate and if she's saying some crazy shit that doesn't make any sense or lying, what are you going to say? That is somebody not supposed to yell down Sarah Palin when she's saying some bullshit? No, you're supposed to call her out and not let her talk fucking nonsense, basically. So the next one is, excuse me, Bernie Sanders doesn't know how to talk about black people. I think that's Jonathan Capehart. Yeah, that guy's a fucking hack. That guy was such a hack in 2016. I couldn't stand that guy. I think he blocked me on my old Twitter account too. He didn't block me this time though, because I had to get a new Twitter account after that one was suspended. And then let's see, what's the next one? This is huge. Trump, Sanders, both using same catchphrase. Oh my God, that's crazy. So Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, they have never used the same phrase as another Republican. So how many? So I guess when Joe Biden goes and teams up with a Republican for a certain kind of piece of legislation or a certain bill, apparently he's never used the same kind of catchphrases as that person who he agrees with, who he's doing a piece of legislation with. But when Bernie Sanders does it, you have to write a whole headline about it and point out how he sounds just like Trump. So apparently, I think what they're referring to, I can't read the article here, it's just a headline. But what they're referring to is Bernie Sanders, would say a lot of things where, about the anti-establishment, I'm anti-establishment, I'm not pro-establishment, I'm, I don't know, I think he may have said something about the deep state and something, and stuff like that. And Trump caught on to that. Trump is not an idiot. He got onto that, and he started using the same phrases as Bernie. It's not like Bernie is trying to copy Trump. Trump is the one copying Bernie. So how's that Bernie's fault? I don't understand. But okay, more hackery from the Washington Post here. And so the next one says, here's something Ted Cruz and Bernie Sanders have in common. We don't know what that is. I don't even really know what they're referring to. It was probably something decent that Ted Cruz said. But they probably, my guess is, I don't know. I can't see what they would... I don't really know what they would agree. I think they were agreeing on something back then. I don't remember, but I think recently they were agreeing on something about drones. I think, I don't know, drone strikes maybe. I don't know, but anyway. So yeah, Bernie Sanders. Yeah, so apparently Bernie Sanders and Ted Cruz are the same now. So it's not only is Bernie Sanders the same as Trump, but he's also the same as Ted Cruz too. The next one is Bernie Sanders says white people don't know what it's like to live in the ghetto. Okay, about that. Okay, so that was one of the big controversies that had come on, and people are still bringing it up to this day. So Bernie Sanders was, I believe, he was doing a debate. You know what? Let's bring up the video here. I'll play it for you guys, and you can let me know what you think, and we can react to it at the same time here. Just a second here. Bernie Sanders living in ghetto. I think it was Florida. Was it a Florida debate? Here it is. Check this out. It's a CNN clip. Check it out. Play right now.
I was with some young people active in the Black Lives Matter movement. Young lady comes up to me and she says, you don't understand what police do in certain black communities. You don't understand the degree to which we are terrorized. And I'm not just talking about the horrible shootings that we have seen, which have got to end, and we've got to hold police officers accountable. I'm just talking about everyday activities where police officers are bullying people. So to answer your question, I would say, and I think it's similar to what the secretary said, when you're white, you don't know what it's like to be living in a ghetto. You don't know what it's like to be poor. You don't know what it's like to be hassled when you walk down the street or you get dragged out of a car. And I believe that as a nation in the year 2016, we must be firm in making it clear. We will end institutional racism and reform a broken criminal justice system.
Oh my God, what a racist thing he just said. That is terrible. So apparently, as usual, the hacks at the Washington Post decided to take a quote out of context, decided to act like Bernie Sanders is, I don't know, hating on white people. I don't know what it is. Apparently, first he can't hate on black people enough, and then he can't hate on white people enough. So apparently he's not making anybody happy. But according to the Washington Post, again, I don't know what the article is. I think I'm behind a paywall when it comes to the Washington Post right now because I've seen so many of the articles. But so Bernie Sanders, again, it says Bernie Sanders says white people don't know what it's like to live in a ghetto. I don't know. They probably refer to him. I don't know. They probably refer to him not knowing what black people are going through. I don't know. But he's explaining it right there. He's saying somebody approached him and told him this. So I don't understand. Again, I don't get these article headlines. Of course, when it comes to that, when it comes to as somebody that's a journalism major, I was a journalism major at San Francisco State University. I studied journalism there for 4 years. And I always knew, I think back then I probably did it more, but back then I always looked at the headlines. I never looked at the articles that I was reading. I was like, oh, okay, so whatever it says on the headline there, it must be true. No, you always have to look past the headline. And any idiot knows this. Any idiot knows that. And back then, I guess I was an idiot then. So I knew, but back then I didn't know to do that. Nowadays, I'm just like, you can't trust the headlines. So this is a test case for not trusting what comes out of a headline in an establishment, and out of an establishment outlet such as the Washington Post. So somebody is saying, no, what black people reacted to was living in the ghetto part of, I guess, what Bernie Sanders was saying. 1 second. Okay, well, that's fine, but at the same time, Bernie Sanders is not lecturing black people on. He is not lecturing people. You're saying it's not a positive or aspirational image. Okay, but Bernie Sanders is not lecturing black people on how they are living their lives. He is trying to explain to other people, because Bernie Sanders is from Brooklyn. He is from Brooklyn. He is from that community that has a lot of black people living there. So he knows what it's like for those people to live in that lifestyle. Now, he's not black. He never said he was black. He never said he's gone through institutional racism. He is Jewish, but he hasn't gone through institutional racism. Maybe he's dealt with anti-Semitism. I don't know. But that's a topic for another day. But the point is that when Bernie Sanders is saying that, he is not lecturing black people on how they are living their lives. He is lecturing people that do not know that black people are living like that. That's how they're living their lives. Now, if people want to spin that into a negative, then okay, well then you're just reaching. As Daniel just said on the feed here, they are reaching super hard. They were doing it then, and they're still doing it now. And they're still saying that Bernie Bros exist. They're still saying that people, people that like Bernie are racist because they don't understand how black people. There's tons of black people that support Bernie Sanders. He's going to rallies, and there's black people there and that are saying that he's in support of you know, what they want. Nina Turner is one of his biggest advocates. Killer Mike is a rapper that's black. He lives in, I forgot what state. I think it's Georgia. I think it is. Yeah, he's Atlanta. He's from Atlanta, Georgia. He's one of his biggest advocates. Cornel West is one of his biggest advocates. So don't tell me that Bernie Sanders doesn't know that black people live these kind of lives. Don't tell me that Bernie Sanders is trying to talk down to black people. When has Bernie Sanders ever talked down to black people? A lot of the times, the only time they really ever can point to a time that Bernie Sanders has, at least as far as I can remember, I'll remember other things, but the main time that I remember Bernie Sanders being lambasted for talking down to, you know, people of color, or just like, not even, well, in this case, not people of color, but people that, you know, that don't like him, basically, that already can't stand him, is when he was saying, you know, identity politics is a bad thing. We should get away from identity politics and focus on policies. Now, that's something I support. I don't support obsessing over identity politics all the time. There's people out there who says, no, we have to vote for a woman because, or a black woman or a white woman or whatever. I have to vote for a woman because we need our first woman president. Well, if you're going to use that logic, then you better vote for Sarah Palin. You better vote for Carly Fiorina, who ran in 2016. You better vote for any woman that's running out there. You better vote for Marco Rubio because he's a Cuban. You know, he's a Cuban. I think he was born in America, but he's Cuban. You know, Ted Cruz is Canadian, and I believe his father was Cuban. He's Canadian. So are we going to vote for the first Canadian president too now? I mean, come on, man. It doesn't make any goddamn sense when these people use these attacks against, you know, use these kind of racially identity, whatever identity is, racial, whether it's based on race, whether it's based on gender, whatever it is, because that's a house of cards. You can't use that strategy in any kind of election. You can't use that strategy in any kind of debate. You're going to end up falling flat on your face. So when Bernie Sanders is saying that white people don't know how to live in the ghetto, he is saying exactly what black people are saying. So apparently, I guess he's not allowed to say it, and only black people are allowed to say it. So if that's your objection, then why do you call Bernie Sanders racist then? So what is he supposed to say? Is he supposed to sit there and say that black people have it easy? No, he's saying what the reality is. Now, if you don't want him to say that, then I don't know. Then I don't know what to tell you. Then apparently he can't do anything right that's going to make you happy, obviously. So again, we went off into a tangent there, but let's move on to the next headline from these Washington Post articles. It says, why Obama says bank reform is a success, but Bernie Sanders says it's a failure. Okay, I can quickly answer that. Obama didn't do any kind of bank reform when he did Dodd-Frank. Dodd-Frank was a ridiculously a watered down piece of legislation. It did almost nothing to prevent any of the problems we're currently having, or were having back then. I think it was in 2012, I believe, 2010. Yeah. So yeah, and he didn't reinstate Glass-Steagall, which would have separated consumer banking and investment banking. So I mean, I don't know what else there is to say about that, but a lot of Obama's legislation has been shitty. And for Bernie Sanders to say it's a failure is perfectly normal. So actually that headline is not that bad, because I would like to see I would have liked to have seen what the context of that, the further context of that article is. But, so I can't really comment, but I mean, as far as the headline goes, he's right. So there's nothing else to say about that. So the next headline is Bernie Sanders pledges the U.S. won't be number one in incarceration. He'll need to release lots of criminals. Okay, well, that's fine. I mean, recently Bernie came out he came out and said that, people that are in jail should be allowed to vote. Now, when I first heard that, I did not support it. I thought that was a little bit curious, because I don't know if I believe in letting people who commit mass murders to be voting in favor of possibly shitty candidates like Donald Trump. But at the same time, I believe in freedom, and I believe that you should have as many rights as possible to do what you want to make this better, to make this world into what you feel you can make it into. Now, obviously, 1 vote, 2 votes, 3 votes is not going to swing a fucking election. Obviously, it's going to take a lot more than that. So 1 vote from like a convicted felon somewhere is not going to make a big deal. Now, who knows how many convicted felons are even going to vote? I don't know. But the general idea of letting convicted felons vote is definitely going to be controversial. As like a friend of mine just recently said, it's similar to the issue of the death penalty. Do you want to kill killers? Do you want to put to death people that have killed other people? A lot of people are like, why? Why? Why wouldn't you, right? Because this person killed, son or a daughter or somebody's son or daughter or wife or whatever they did, or your whole family or a whole bunch of people. You want to, put an end to their life. It's understandable. But at the same time, it's not solving, like, what is that doing? It's basically an eye for an eye. You're basically doing what that person did, but in like a more formal sense. You're sticking them to a bed. You're putting a cocktail into their veins and then killing them. So it's the same thing that they already did. The only difference is it's a little bit more formal. So I don't know. I don't support that, obviously. But I understand the people that are coming from, the perspective of wanting to put, prisoners to death, and at the same time, I also understand people that want to not kill. I'm sorry, wanting to not let people that have killed other humans and have violated the law and stuff like that to be able to vote. Now, it's different with like nonviolent drug offenders and nonviolent people that have committed nonviolent crimes. That's a different story. Those people, what impact has somebody, a black dude that is caught selling crack or weed or cocaine or whatever on the street, and then getting caught for it and then going to jail? Why should that guy not be allowed to vote? He should be allowed to vote. And it's not like he's going to go out there and vote, yeah, I'm in favor of more drugs to be on the street. No. Who knows? Maybe he will. But that you can at least give that person a chance to make some sort of determination, and maybe you're also you're allowing that person to make a determination that will possibly turn his life around, so that maybe he doesn't want to sell drugs anymore. He was just selling drugs at the time because he had to survive, and that's what a lot of the case is with the nonviolent drug offenders. So the people that do get caught for smoking weed or selling weed or whatever they're selling or smoking or whatever they're doing. But yeah, but when it comes to the case of voting, it's a good conversation to have. Unfortunately, it's not going to be very popular in a general election. I believe, I'm just saying what my perspective is. Even though I'm becoming more and more convinced to be in favor of letting criminals and people that are in jail to vote, it's going to be very, very hard to convince independent voters, and especially right wingers, that it's let's go and let some guy in jail to vote. It's just not going to happen. I just don't see it happening. Now, whether that's going to swing the election for Bernie, I don't know. Assuming he gets into the general against Trump, but Trump is going to. All I know is Trump is going to exploit that. So he better have some good talking points to use against him. To respond to Trump's bullshit, because Trump is going to exploit the shit out of that. He's going to strawman Bernie. He's going to talk about how he wants how Bernie wants illegal immigrants to vote and stuff. He's going to make some shit up. I was looking at the Fox News. I think it was the Fox News or some right wing website. I think it was Hannity. No, Sean Hannity's page, where, oh my God, Bernie Sanders wants he wants felons to vote, and then you look at all the tweets responding to Sean Hannity's tweet, and they're like, yeah, look how desperate these Democrats are. They want to let criminals to vote now. So they're already convinced that like anybody that wants to do that is already a bad person. And then because Bernie also said that he wants that he would be okay with Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, I believe his name was Tsarnaev, one of the Tsarnaev brothers that committed the Boston bombing. He would allow him to vote, and again, I understand how that's a controversial issue. It's not a black and white issue. It's something that you have to really examine it and figure out, have to get to the meat of the issue and talk it out. And Bernie is not going to be able to talk it out with Trump. So luckily he's in a primary. I'm interested to see what all the other people have to say. I know for a fact Buttigieg said no. And he's like a military guy and stuff. So he's kind of like this, he's like this pseudo Democrat or pseudo liberal. He's not even really a liberal. He's obviously not progressive. He said he used to like Bernie, but yeah. So I mean, he seems like he would try and cater to like conservative voters, especially since he's in Indiana, which is a pretty conservative state. But and the last headline here says the NRA just praised Bernie Sanders and did him no favors in doing so. So that's just some bullshit that people have been pushing about Bernie Sanders being pro NRA and pushing, certain gun laws that, he believes. My response to that, to Bernie Sanders being this so-called like puppet for the NRA, is that he lived or was running. He was the Senate. He was the senator from a state that is largely in favor of guns, largely in favor of pro-guns. They don't have a lot of murders in the state of Vermont, where he's been the senator for the last 12 years, and then he's also been, he was in Congress starting in 91, so almost 30 years now. But and then he was also obviously mayor of Burlington. But he's been in that state for more than 30 years. Yeah, and he, the gun crimes in that state are very, very low. And it's understandable that he would be in favor of saying like, oh yeah, the people in my state should be allowed to vote. Now they say he voted in favor of he voted against the Brady bill and stuff. I think that had to do with, I don't know what the grounds was behind why he voted against the Brady bill. I believe it was because of, I want to say, like wait lines for like waiting for guns to purchase guns. So like the waiting period. And they say like he was in favor of like allowing guns on trains. So like all the anti-gun groups, they came out against him in 2016 and are still coming out against him and saying like, oh, he's some sort of puppet of the NRA. And so it's just, whatever, dude. It's not, I'm not convinced Bernie is that. I believe that his views on guns, I think they're relatively normal, in my opinion. He believes in background checks. He's voted on banning assault rifles 3 times. It's not like he's not pro-gun like that. He's not pro-gun like Republicans are, but they pretend like he is because they're trying to stick something on. And like Daniel said before, they're reaching really hard. They're reaching really hard to try and pin something on him, and they're going to be very, very unsuccessful in convincing the people that he's pro NRA. Come on, it's fucking stupid. Anyway, let's see what some of the comments are here. A little more from Daniel here. He says, I feel that in Bernie's mind is that he talks the way he talks because he knows that fixing the system overall means benefiting minorities and the disadvantaged. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think Bernie's record has definitely, he's definitely been in favor of minorities, people of color, to live much better. And a lot of times you have these conversations and you talk about how Bernie, like we said before, Bernie, is going into whiter states and he's trying to appeal to whiter people. But again, he is not only doing that, he's going to the other states, but at the same time, he is talking about how, for example, he talks about how, okay, I'm in favor of Medicare for all. I'm in favor of healthcare for all. I think they're calling healthcare for all now. So whatever, I like to call it Medicare for all. He's in favor of Medicare for all. He's in favor of free tuition, tuition-free college. He's in favor of, raising the minimum wage, making it a living wage. A living wage would be at least, I don't know, $20-something now. So, but even getting to $15 an hour, which he did advocated for in favor of Amazon, and everybody loved him for that. That was a huge accomplishment by Bernie when he got Amazon to raise their minimum wage to $15 an hour. But yeah, he's in favor of all these things, and these are all things that are going to help people of color. So people that are living in all these different states where they're being, so if you just throw out a random state, throw out a state like Alabama, throw out a state like South Carolina, Mississippi, all these states that are heavily populated with black, with a black population, these policies are going to help them because that's what they're suffering. They're suffering right now. People in those states are suffering with class. It's institutional class racism, essentially, in the sense that because somebody is a person of color, is black, whatever ethnicity you are, that's not white, essentially, these people are suffering through problems that are keeping them from being able to advance in society. So if you're a black person living in the state of South Carolina, and you want to go and get a job at, let's just throw out a company, let's say McDonald's, and they don't want to hire you for whatever reason. And let's just say they do hire you, but they end up giving you, I don't know, $9.50 an hour. Well, I don't know what the minimum wage is in that state. But let's just say they get you for $9.50 an hour. That is nowhere close to even being enough for that person. That person has to get a second job. So they're going to go out there and they're going to keep hiring these people for lower minimum wage jobs, and people are going to have to work these terrible jobs, which is going to do nothing for them, and then they're going to have to suffer. And then, but then, these fucking right-wing politicians and the many Democrats say, like, well, why don't you just get another job? What's the big deal? Why don't you work harder? There's nothing wrong with wrong with the system. It's perfectly fine the way it is. You just need to make it work better for you. It's something. So they're blaming them. They're trying to put it on them and try to act like it's something they did, when in reality these issues are all institutional, and it's all because the system is made to screw over people of color, screw over people that are more, they're disadvantaged. They're not able to make it like white people are. People like myself, people like, to be fair, I do have Persian background. I mean, my parents were born in Iran, but I'm just saying generally, in regard to the fact that people like myself, people that are white, people that there a lot more people have opportunities that black people, Mexican people, maybe even a lot of Asian people don't have. These are all issues that they will have, that they have to go through, and they don't get opportunities because of their skin color. And Bernie Sanders is trying to appeal to that message by talking about class, by talking about race, and interconnecting those, and saying that these problems can all be, not all, but a good chunk of them can be fixed by the policies that he's advocating for. So if a person is poor and going out there and wanting to get a better type of healthcare, let's say if a woman, I think it's different. Well, a woman is a little bit different because they can go to Planned Parenthood and stuff, and like if they want to get like a pap smear or something. But let's just say like a man, is poor. He doesn't have anything, he doesn't have any kind of health insurance. He can, he can go into an ER, but if he does that, then that ends up being funded, well, at least under Obamacare, it ends up being funded by the rest of us. So it ends up costing the people more, because going to ER is expensive as hell. And now, unless you have Medi-Cal or something, like I do in the state of California, I currently have Medi-Cal because I'm not able to make enough money to have decent insurance. So I get Medi-Cal, and it's pretty decent. But I'm lucky. I'm in California. Now, I don't know how it is in any other states, But yeah, so my general point is that the policy that Bernie Sanders is pushing for, even though they're not specifically catering to like, oh yeah, I'm going to help that black person or that, Hispanic person, these things are going to end up helping them in the long run. But since he's not framing it in like this way that, makes them feel like they are being, that they're being heard, they get pissed off and they think he's being racist and not paying attention to them. So it's just like a lot of that is just bullshit. It's just, they're just making that stuff up. And that's honestly, a lot of it is being pushed by the media too. And so they kind of just fall for that shit. People just fall for the propaganda. Yeah. So, I mean, what are you going to do? That's just the way it is. And, yeah, and there was another thing I wanted to talk about. So, I mentioned Pete Buttigieg before, and so he's been doing some desperate shit recently, Actually, no one. No, I want to talk about something else. I want to talk about Bernie Sanders. One more thing regarding Bernie Sanders is he's been going back and forth with a couple people. So he was going at it with the Center for American Progress, who released a video about him, about how after he released his tax returns, it turned out that Bernie Sanders is actually a millionaire. With shock and awe, we're thrown back by the fact that Bernie Sanders might have $1 million. Okay, so everybody fucking flipped their wig and freaked out, and I can't believe this socialist ended up being a millionaire. Okay, so the hacks at the Center for American Progress, to be fair, it was Think Progress, which they claim is separate from Center for American Progress. They ended up releasing a video, and I'm going to show that to you. And they ended up releasing a video where they said, oh, look at this, Bernie Sanders is a millionaire, and he's got a millionaire problem or some shit. So, as I said, yeah, Bernie's millionaire problems. If I remember correctly, it had a lot of downvotes on this. Here's the video.
So if I'm a millionaire, or millionaires and billionaires. For billionaires and millionaires. For millionaires and billionaires.
Okay, this is just like a bunch of clips of Bernie Sanders, railing against millionaires and billionaires, but then there's a bunch of captions. So I'm going to pause and then read the captions to you. It says, for years, Bernie Sanders has been railing against...
If I'm a millionaire, or millionaires and billionaires. For billionaires and millionaires. For millionaires and billionaires.
Now, thanks to his noteworthy 2016 presidential run and royalties on his books, Sanders' finances have improved and his rhetoric has been slightly tweaked. Okay.
A proliferation of millionaires and billionaires. When millionaires and billionaires of millionaires and billionaires.
So now this shows a chart. It's showing a chart of Bernie Sanders' income starting from 2014.
Millionaires and billionaires, 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 millionaires and billionaires.
And it shows his income went up to $1 million. Starting from 2015, it started to go up to $1 million by 2016.
This is a budget of the billionaire class, by the billionaire class, and for the billionaire class. More billionaires in his administration. Billionaires and the wealthiest people. Billionaires and the wealthy. A handful of billionaires and other billionaires. Billionaires allow billionaires, multi-millionaires, and billionaires. Of multi-millionaires and billionaires. If you are a billionaire or in the top 1%, we will be an administration for the working families of this country and not for billionaire campaign contributors.
And it says, see the change. Okay, so that's basically a smear. That's it. That's basically a smear video, and it just shows that his income spiked to $1 million in 2016, and then remained that way until 2017, and I guess it's still $1 million now. So, and by the way, the ratio of likes to dislikes of this video currently is 351 upvotes to 2,000 downvotes. So people caught wind of this thing, and they knew that it was bullshit. And they knew it was a fucking hacky video. It was a hacky way to go after him. Because, as Bernie Sanders has pointed out before, this is, like, when it comes to the issue of, millionaires and billionaires, he wants them to be taxed high. He wants himself to be taxed higher. He wants people like that to pay their fair share. He has paid his fair share. So it's not... like, okay, if Bernie Sanders is a millionaire or a billionaire, what difference does it make? He's going out there and saying that these millionaires and billionaires, including himself, needs to pay more in more of his fair share of taxes. So what the hell? I don't understand what they're hating on him for. But that's the point. They're reaching as usual. They're trying to find something against him because they can't find nothing else. So they have to, make some hacky bullshit videos and put out some articles. So anyway, Bernie Sanders responded to this, and he went after the Center for American Progress. They came back after him, and they said, basically the same thing that I said before, that they claimed that the Center for American Progress is separate from Think Progress. So the Think Progress that released this video, it's not the same thing. These are different people. We didn't basically saying Neera Tanden, the head of CAP, basically said, this had nothing to do with us. Who believes that? I mean, come on. The rhetoric that these hacky arguments that they're using against him is the same shit that they were using before, was the same shit that they were, in 2016. The same kind of stuff as far as kind of just grasping at straws and just making things up. But, and just pretending as if Bernie is some sort of elitist, some sort of elitist douchebag when he's not, or he's some, compared, just like in 2016 when they were pretending he was like a racist, sexist, whatever he was, and, whatever they were saying. But, they were just making all these bullshit arguments, and Bernie, got angry, and he lashed out at them, rightfully so, and he called them out, and he said, this is bullshit. Like, you can't, this is not something that, this is not true at all. I'm coming out I'm coming out in favor of higher taxes. I'm coming out in favor of pushing for whatever millionaire is out there, and I'm not, how am I a hypocrite just because I made $1 million, on top of the fact that, my book sold a lot of, I had a lot of books that I sold, so I don't know what was the name of his book? Something Revolution, Bernie's Revolution or something. And I sold this book and I got a lot of attention for it, so I'm, naturally I'm going to make a lot of money. What is he supposed to do? Was he supposed to give away that money? Was he supposed to give it to somebody? I guess he could give it to charity. I heard he gave a little bit of that to charity. He probably could have given more, but that's besides the point. It's not like he's screwing over, the people of, the people of the United States like the rest of these other billionaires, millionaires, and billionaires are. So Bernie Sanders, being smeared by the, by the Center for American Progress and, kind of like their affiliate, Think Progress and stuff. It's, that's kind of like, I don't know if they were doing that back in 2016, but, the difference between this time and that time is that Bernie is actually responding directly to them, and he was calling out Think Progress he was calling them out for their funding because, so as far as, obviously Think Progress is owned and run by Center for American Progress. Center for American Progress receives funding from like dictatorial regimes like UAE and whatnot, the United Arab Emirates and whatnot. So he was calling them out for that, and he was saying that, this is not the kind of organization that anybody can trust, and it's people that are taking these attacks against me, and in this case against him, of course. They're taking it literally. You're trusting an organization that you're buying the propaganda from an organization that is funded by very shady type countries or entities. And he's absolutely right. And the fact that people don't see that, it's kind of weird, because these days, like, it was the same case with, like, back in 2016, people they didn't know about the institutional kind of underlyings of how everything is influenced by money, how everything is influenced by these kind of like big corporations stuff. So Barack Obama would, President Obama, he would rail against, oh yeah, Citizens United is really, really bad, and the money in politics is bad, but he never did anything about it, And Democrats to this day, these days, I would say Democrats are just as bad as Republicans when it comes to the issue of money in politics, and they're sold out just as much as they are. And the only people really talking out against that would be Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, obviously Bernie Sanders, Tulsi Gabbard. I believe Ilhan Omar has done the same. So these are things that you're hearing from people that nobody else wants to say, even Democrats, fellow Democrats in that case, the fellow Democrats of Bernie Sanders, of AOC, of Ilhan Omar. And it's just, it's weird because you would think these people that because the Democrats always claim they believe in democracy. They're Democrats. They have that word in there, democracy, Democrat, whatever you want to, word it. But they claim to be in favor of democracy, but they really don't give a shit, And, it's really kind of weird when you have these outfits like the Center for American Progress, which, to their credit, I don't know, I would say maybe 10 years ago, roughly, they were decent. They were very, very decent back in the day when they were going after George W. Bush, as a lot of people were. When people were going, when they were going out, they were railing against George Bush. That was those were the glory days of kind of like the blogosphere, really coming out against the establishment. But nowadays, nobody wants to do that no more. The only people that are coming out against the establishment are the people that support Bernie Sanders, that support AOC, that support, Tulsi Gabbard, Mike Gravel, and all those, those kind of people, And it's really, really disappointing to see Democrats, like Nancy Pelosi is one of the biggest sellouts in the Democratic Party, and that's the only reason, in my opinion, is the only reason why she's the speaker. Because she sells out the most, and you know what? She'll admit that. She just admits it out. She just doesn't admit it in the same kind of way I do, or in the same. She doesn't word it the same kind of way I do. She just says, "Well, I'm the best. I'm a great or grand or wonderful fundraiser. I'm a big fundraiser for the Democratic Party. I'm a excellent fundraiser for the party." Yeah, okay. It's really easy to be a fundraiser, but who are you fundraising from? If you're fundraising from a bunch of millionaires and billionaires, as Bernie says, using that terminology, that's if you're fundraising from those people, as they do, then you're doing the things that the Republicans are already doing, but you're just putting a mask of oh, don't worry, like the case with Biden and being like a sexual kind of person, a groper and stuff, oh, because it's a Democrat, don't worry, he's fine. It's fine because it's coming from Democrats compared to coming from Republicans, and and that's a good point by Daniel, saying that the Center for American Progress was founded with legitimate good intent, but then got corrupted over time. That's absolutely true. I mean, they were, I don't know, not sure. I think the initial founder was, I'm sure it was John Podesta. But again, that was at the time that Podesta was doing that. He was going against the Republicans and Bush, and then now, they've gotten in bed with those people essentially. But when it comes to the kind of fundraising that takes place within the Democratic Party, it's just as bad as Republicans, and nobody's willing to call it out unless you're actual progressive. And those same people that do that kind of corrupt fundraising, they like to call themselves progressive, and they are not at all, not even close. So it's total hackery, total bullshit. I don't buy any of it. Anybody that fucking buys into that stuff is just you're a fool. You're a puppet, essentially. You're a puppet for those loyalist Democratic Party establishment, corrupt, corporatists and corrupt type politicians. So I just wanted to address that. I wanted to point out that story to you guys, and that kind of allows me to go into the next topic that I want to discuss, which was what's his name? Buttigieg. So Buttigieg is Pete Buttigieg. He is running against. He's running in the primary, as I mentioned, and he recently, I believe it was him, or was it Beto? Maybe it was Beto, but both of them are, let's talk about both of them, because they're both trying to get involved in this kind of fundraising stuff where they what was the latest one I saw? I believe it was. There's also another story about how Beto might be supposedly losing his mojo to Buttigieg, which, okay, I guess it is. I mean, they're the same exact kind of person. They're both white dudes from, that have the same kind of general establishment views, but it'd be weird that one of them would be taking the mojo from the other guy, if they even had any mojo. But I'll get to that in a second. But as far as I saw it here. I just saw it earlier. Here it is. So it says Gwyneth Paltrow and Bradley Whitford. Those are two, Hollywood celebrities. They're hosting a fundraiser for Pete Buttigieg. So let's just check that article because I kind of want to talk about that. So Buttigieg is just, he's been saying a bunch of stupid shit. He's been, railing against Bernie Sanders, saying Bernie Sanders Bernie Sanders supporters are just like Trump. And he is saying, he was saying the thing about how presidents should not be allowed to vote. And, He's slowly peeling that onion, right? You're slowly peeling that onion and finding more and more about this guy, and he's just like Beto O'Rourke. He's like a carbon copy of that guy. They're both sellouts and they're both opportunists, and so he's saying all these things, and now he's trying to do the fundraising, which I believe Beto O'Rourke did it as well, and. So, I mean, my guess is the fact. So it's actually interesting timing, because now that he is doing these fundraisers with these elitist Hollywood types, he's starting to change up his rhetoric. Buttigieg is slowly but surely. He's slowly starting to inch his way into the establishment kind of circles, which I think he pretty much always was in. But rhetoric wise, I don't think he really was until recently. Now he's starting to do it because he's like, shit, I'm not going to be able to get much attention, spewing a bunch of platitudes and cliches like Beto O'Rourke does. See, that guy has already mastered that stuff, so I can't do the same thing. I have to stand out. So let me figure out that strategy, but for now, let me go and make some extra money by holding some fundraisers. So just so you guys, just in case you guys don't know, the way these fundraisers work especially when it's like these very high priced, celebrity type fundraisers, what they do is George Clooney did it for Hillary Clinton back in 2016, and he admitted as much, and he was like, yeah, it's a fucked up thing we're doing, but we're doing it anyway. It's okay. We're still good people. That's basically what Clooney was saying back then. So now it's Gwyneth Paltrow and Bradley Whitford. I think another one that Kamala Harris did. I'll have to check that for that article possibly, but it says the same exact thing though. But what I'm gonna explain in a second. But Kamala Harris, I think, was fundraising with some singers. I think who was it again? Was that guy? I'll look it up for you guys in a second. But I just wanted to explain to you guys how these kind of celebrity type fundraisers work. It's basically what they do is they go to these big fundraisers that has like, I don't know how many people in them. Maybe like 100 people. It's like a whole big kind of like big, not like a big auditorium. It's like kind of like a mini kind of like ballroom type thing. And they gather about 100 different people in there, and people have to pay. So based on how much they pay, it depends where they get to sit, and even if they get to sit, and even if they get to meet with that in this case candidate, in this case is Buttigieg, for example, or in the other example Kamala Harris. And what happens is they put these people in a room. They say, okay, you pay $200. Okay, you get to sit in the fucking nosebleeds all the way in the back of the fucking room, and you don't get to see shit. You don't get to hear shit, but you get to, I don't know, clap for, Buttigieg and whoever, saying some stupid platitudes and cliches. Okay, wonderful. But if you pay $2,700, so it's basically like a ticket. You basically pay a ticket, and it's basically the higher ticket you pay, the closer you get to sit, and the more access you have to that candidate. And most likely, if you pay that $2,700, you get to meet with the candidate, shake hands, hey, how's it going, Buttigieg or whoever, and then you get to talk to them and take pictures probably. And then on top of it, So because the maximum donation you can make, the maximum individual donation that every single American can make is $2,700 an hour, and not a cent or a dollar above that. That is the most amount of money that you could give, and I don't know why that is. I'm surprised they didn't make it higher, but that's a lot of money though. I mean, how many? I don't have $2,700 lying around, so that's a hell of a lot of money, but it's chump change. That's a drop in the bucket for a celebrity. So when they give that, they get a lot of benefits from that person. And then what happens? And then all the corporate executives get involved, and they start giving that money. So like everybody's outdoing everybody for these $2,700 donations, and the lowest amount of money that can be given that can still be considered as like a high donation is $200. So, yeah, and as Daniel mentions, these are called bundling parties, and Hillary was doing the same exact thing, and she was doing it with George Clooney and I'm sure a lot of others, and so what they do is they do that. They get these people into a room. They make them pay $200 between $200 and $2,700 an hour, or how I think it's for an hour. I don't know how long those events last, but they're not that long. They're probably at most maybe 2 hours, 3 hours. But they do that, and then they give some stupid speeches, and then they act like they're making money from individual people, but they're really making money from a bunch of people that are rich. And like I said, the average person does not have $2,700 around, lying around. $27 lying around, maybe. And that's why Bernie Sanders gets an average donation of $27 per donation, because that's how much people have. And that's a very, very tiny, what is that? I think it's that 1% of 2,700. Yeah, that's only $27 is 1%, exactly 1% of 2,700, and that's smart. Bernie Sanders pushes that, and he's like, my donations are only 1% of you fucking assholes. J.J. Abrams and his wife, J.J. Abrams is a director. He's a Hollywood director, and Katie McGrath. So they were holding a fundraiser for her. Wow, look at this. It says, I was actually wrong. Tickets cost $2,800 per guest, with co-chairs donating $10,000. Wow. So, I mean, you see how they mask it, though? They mask it within, like, the context of, like, this, like, as if it's an event, but it's really just a bribe. And it's a bribe for these people, these Hollywood elitists, to get, to support this person, and, like, they're going to get favors later on, So they're going to probably get tax cuts. They're probably going to get, let's say if like let's just say hypothetically somebody that donates to Kamala Harris at an event is against net neutrality. If Kamala Harris becomes president, she's going to push for policies that are against net neutrality to benefit that person. If somebody's a, CEO of a healthcare company, that person is going to get, is going to donate $2,700 an hour, and they're going to, $2,700 for that event, and then they're going to get Kamala is not going to push for Medicare for all. She's going to, because she's claimed she's in favor of it. She flipped on that later on, but she's going to, she's not going to do that. She's going to go and push for, some bullshit, Obamacare type legislation, right? So, yeah, exactly. As Daniel says, legal bribery, and it's fucking slick as hell. These are all events held in like big, kind of very elitist type states. I'm in LA right now, but yeah, I mean, like, these events take place in Los Angeles. They take place in New York. I'm not sure if they take place a lot in Washington. I mean, there's not a lot of celebrities there, but there are a lot of, obviously a lot of financial institutions, I'm sure. But yeah, and so. Yeah, these kind of things, these schemes and these fucking, these kind of things that they pull, it's ridiculous how they get away with it, and how they act like it's totally like, oh, it's totally normal. We just got like a bunch of like celebrities coming here, and they're giving me money, and I'm normal just like you. I'm just like the average Joe or average Jane, and don't worry, I'm totally on your side though. You whatever you want to refer to them, I don't know, regular, average Joe out there. Yeah. So, I mean, but obviously they're not. So, but and so a similar thing is happening with Beto O'Rourke too. So Beto O'Rourke apparently, at one point he I believe he refused to take fossil fuel money. I think he was doing that against Ted Cruz when he was running for the Ted Cruz Senate seat, the one that he lost in 2018, this past midterms. He lost to Ted Cruz. I think he refused to take fossil fuel money. He refused to take super PAC money. We're going to get to the super PAC money stuff in a second. Here it is. Beto O'Rourke declines to sign pledge barring fossil fuel money. So let me just read this article. Just skim through this article real quick. It says, the Democratic presidential hopeful Beto O'Rourke has refused to sign a pledge not to accept donations from the fossil fuel industry, Bloomberg News reported Tuesday. Beto O'Rourke reportedly told members of the Sunrise Movement, which is a progressive group that brought the pledge there in favor of pushing for advocacy in favor of climate change, that he won't take money from the executives, lobbyists, or political action committees, but he added that he would accept donations from workers. So this is something he got in trouble for before, and he got called out for David Sirota. He got called out by David Sirota, as well as many other reporters, great progressive reporters. And he... So, he was, I don't know, people, his defenders and stuff were like, oh, how dare you criticize him for taking money from regular people. But he was taking tons of money from these people. It's not like he was taking small amounts of money. He was taking hundreds of thousands of dollars from these people. Now, a lot of them were CEOs, a lot of them were workers, but they were giving a ton of money. They were giving a lot of money. So it's not like, so if you're talking about like some guy that's giving like $50, or even $200. That's not, I mean, so like I said, $200 is the minimum donation considered to be a big pledge. But okay, so you take $200 from somebody that you claim is a worker, fine. But if it's going to be more than that, and if it's going to be $200, the question is, who's it from? So if it's from workers, what kind of workers? So what if would you consider a CEO of a company a worker? So it's like, it's very vague the way these kind of people, these kind of politicians put these things. Oh, I'm going to take money from workers. But then I guarantee you, if a CEO of an oil company came up to him and gave him $2,700 or $200 or however much, he's going to take it. So what happens? So, it's like, you can't trust these kind of people when they say this shit. They pretend as if they're doing, like totally like, like being totally open about it and putting it all out there. Yeah, don't worry. You can trust me. I'm going to do, what's right, and I'm not going to lie to you. But it's really bullshit. So let me just read this quote here. It says, if you work in the oil fields, you answer the phones in the office. If you're one of my fellow Texans in one of our state's largest employers, we're not going to single you out from being unable to participate in our democracy. Yeah, see how convenient is that? And he's doing it in Virginia. If I remember correctly, Virginia is it's a big coal mining type state. Maybe that's West Virginia, but certain states he's going to go and he's going to say certain things that people are going to like want to hear, so he's going to kind of like cater to them. But yeah, so I mean, so he's framing this as like, no, I'm in favor of the little guy. I'm coming out there in favor of you, average Joes, I'm going to do what's right for you guys. And I don't know, I'm going to pretend like I'm not doing something that's totally like sneaky and I guess you can call it unethical. So depending on how you want to frame it, I don't know, as far as taking money from like, that's what I'm saying. It's such a vague thing. I'm taking money from workers. Like, I don't know. That's not unethical, but who are they? Are they actual workers, or are they the CEOs? Are they the, how much money are they giving? That's why that average donation that every candidate receives is really important. And why Bernie's $27 an hour is much better than Beto's, whatever it is, 35 or 37, whatever it is, and Biden's 41. Let alone the fact that they get, Bernie Sanders has 223,000, donors, whereas those other two don't have even close to as many. He's doubling them up and tripling them up. He's getting a hell of a lot more than they are. But yeah, I mean, it's so clear that Beto is so desperate to get in with the establishment and do what he, to kind of cater, well, obviously not even kind of, he really wants to cater to them, but he tries to pretend as if he's like this everyman. And then Biden is doing the same thing. He's always been doing the same thing. Joe Biden is like typical of that. He's always been that type to do that kind of shit. So that's totally not, totally not surprising. But yeah, but when it comes to that, like, it's just so sneaky. Beto and Buttigieg are just like, I can't stand those two. Those, like, they're like two sides of the same coin. It's just that you can't trust anything they say, because it just seems like they're not. They just don't look trustworthy. Frankly, I'm sure anybody can. I'm sure anybody can see that they're not trustworthy at all. Not even fucking close. So it's like, and it's weird, because back when Obama was president, a lot of people were like, yeah, he's so inspiring, and he's, he makes me feel really warm and fuzzy inside. But in reality, Obama was just the type of person that just catered to certain policies, or not certain policies, certain groups, like millennials. He fooled a lot of people like me into believing that he was like this, great politician, great person, but he was really just a very smooth politician that his rhetoric just convinced all of us that, that he's doing something, right and good, when in reality he's just sneaky. Just like Beto is, just like Buttigieg is. And that's why I refer to Beto O'Rourke as Beto Obama, because he wants to be like Obama. He's just like Obama. He's in fact hired people from Obama's from his campaign, 2012, I think, campaign, to be on his campaign this time. So apparently some former Bernie people that were campaigning for Bernie on it, so were on his campaign in 2016. They joined Beto's campaign for this time around, for 2020, but then they left. They dropped out. They didn't want to be involved with Beto anymore. So that's funny. That's a funny development, because they probably figured out and I think I know. I heard that story from Kyle Kalinske of Secular Talk, and I believe the one I think I know who it is that they're referring to. They were posting on Twitter about how, they don't trust Beto and all that stuff. So, yeah. So Buttigieg, Beto O'Rourke, they're desperate. They're desperate, and they're doing everything to try and get in with the establishment, and it's so obvious, Yeah, and so we'll see what happens with that. I don't know how they're going to do in the primaries coming up. The polls don't have them very high. I think Buttigieg had a little bit of a rise. Beto had a little bit of a rise. Kamal had a little bit of a rise, but they've all kind of like fallen back. They're kind of stagnant at the moment, So another thing I wanted to talk about was, so Russiagate happened. So I'm gonna kind of, I guess I'll kind of divide this into two parts, I guess. So Russiagate, was obviously something that ever since Trump pretty much became president, the Democratic Party, the Democratic elites have been obsessing over, and they've been just, beating with a dead horse like crazy, still are to this day. They finally figured out, or finally found out, I guess, from the Mueller report, that Russiagate was nothing, and it ended up being just a bunch of bullshit. And this is actually a development that happened a while ago, but I just wanted to talk about it. But I also wanted to kind of link it towards the conversation about impeaching Trump. So I don't really have much else to say about Russiagate. I'm sick of talking about it. There's not much else to say regarding that, other than the fact that when you talk about it, there's a difference between there's different parts of the whole Russiagate stuff. The one part of it is discussing collusion, and then the other part is talking about obstruction. When you're talking about obstruction, what the issue that is discussed is that Trump obstructed. He did an obstruction of justice when it came to not allowing ties, especially financial ties, that he had with Russian oligarchs in Russia. So with Russian oligarchs, And he tried to obstruct that stuff because obviously Trump loves his money and he can't get enough of it, and he can't be exposed for doing anything corrupt or anything sneaky. So he obviously would want to cover that up as much as possible, and he obstructed with a lot of the investigations, if not all the investigations, that went into finding out all the different things that he was doing regarding his business dealings, regarding his whatever kind of financial help he got from Russia and stuff. So he wanted to cover that up. He obstructed that. He didn't want that to go through. I don't disagree with that. I don't think that's a conspiracy theory. I think the biggest conspiracy, the big part of the conspiracy theory with Russiagate is the collusion. Collusion has never been proven. The fact that the claim that Trump colluded with Russia is just, it's completely baseless. There's absolutely zero evidence of it. And the fact that people want to obsess over this narrative shows that it's their way of trying to take the blame off of Hillary Clinton being a shitty candidate. And they want to pretend like, oh, well, the only reason Trump won was because of Russia. And he couldn't have done this by himself, so Russia must have been involved. So they go out there and they just blast this fucking Russia bullshit constantly. Russia helped him, Putin his puppet, blah, blah, blah. It's obviously hasn't been proven by anything. There's tons of evidence to prove that he is not Russia's puppet. Kyle Kulinski of Secular Talk has mentioned multiple times how we've had situations with Russia where we haven't allowed them to get involved haven't allowed Russia to be involved in oil dealings with Germany, I believe it is, so I believe Germany. No, so Germany wants to be involved in an oil deal with, I forgot who it was, I think ExxonMobil or something, and they want to be involved in an oil deal. Germany does with an oil company. America is not allowing Russia to be involved in that oil deal. They want Germany to be involved, or if anything, America wants to be involved. But whatever it is, they don't want Russia to be involved, and they don't want them to get to benefit off that oil deal. And there's another situation happened where there were NATO troops there were NATO troops, I think it was in 2017, that were lined up on Russia's. So they were lined up in Ukraine on Russia's border, and they were basically making like a challenge towards the Russian government. And I mean, I don't know. Like I don't know if you're a Russian puppet, or you're colluding with the Russian government. Why are you putting NATO troops on the border of Russia? That just makes no sense. And then there was also another situation where I believe there were boats. It was either boats or fighter jets that were kind of hovering over the Black Sea near the Russian border, near the Russian the region that region right near Russia, and they were trying to, it was almost kind of like a Mexican standoff kind of thing, and similar to like the NATO troops being on the Russian border as well. So there's these different things that they have done that they have clearly has shown that Trump, and this is all Trump's doing. This is not Obama. Obama didn't even want to do those things. Trump did all these things. So if Trump is a puppet of this government, of this country, or let alone of the president, then he's doing a lot of things that are against that country, against that president, and against that country's interests. So it's a lot of that stuff is just bullshit. So all this collusion stuff is just a narrative to pretend that the Hillary Clinton was not a terrible candidate. The Democratic Party did nothing wrong. That's why they keep bringing up all So I'm going to be talking about Julian Assange. Hopefully at some point, I'll see if I can, sneak that into today's episode. But a lot of times they are, they're railing against, Julian Assange, and they're talking about how, Assange helped the Russian government release emails from the Hillary Clinton campaign, and that's why Trump loves WikiLeaks so much, even though it looks like, I'm not sure if it's going to happen, but it looks like Trump is going to end up extraditing Julian Assange to the United States to have him prosecuted for whatever bullshit they're going to accuse him of. So, so they want to use every possible excuse, and obviously Hillary has used the excuse of Russian trolls. She's used the excuse of Jill Stein, so third parties voting. So it's just every possible fucking thing that you can throw out there. The Democrats and Hillary Clinton have done because they don't want to take blame for anything that they've done wrong. So the whole narrative is just about them just saving their own ass. That's all they really care about. So. But just to kind of conclude this part of the segment, collusion has never been proven, and it's not going to be proven because it's so hard to prove that the Russian government colluded with a campaign unless you all they have is honestly just a lot of circumstantial evidence. None of this evidence is like, oh yeah, there it is, we see them colluding. Or we see them, they did something for them, and then that's not there. You can't see that, and you can't expose that, and you can't find it. But they keep trying to push it. And one of the candidates that's running, that's recently run, Eric Swalwell, who used to actually be my former. I used to be a constituent of his when I was living in the Bay Area in Pleasanton, California, a few years ago. He was my representative up there, and this guy is the biggest fucking RussiaGate conspiracy theorist. He thinks still to this point that Trump is a Russian whatever puppet and a Putin puppet and all that stuff. Even though the Mueller report came out and said there was no collusion, he still believes it. So the guy's insane, and he's running for president now, and he is running on the idea that Trump is a Russian puppet. So his whole agenda is Trump is Russia's puppet, and he's a Russian asset, and yeah, that's how I'm going to win a fucking election, by talking about Russia all the time, Russia and Trump the whole time. So the guy's delusional as fuck. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing, but whatever, man. Go do your thing, and you're gonna be out of this primary very, very soon. He's gonna embarrass himself. So, finally, hopefully, if I don't end up getting to Assange in a second, I was gonna kind of talk about Assange and free speech and whatnot, but I wanted to just kind of quickly segue into the impeachment of Trump. So. There are a lot of people that are on my side that are going after Nancy Pelosi for actually backtracking on not wanting to impeach Trump anymore. Now, I don't support impeaching Trump, and I don't mean that on the grounds of the fact that I don't think he's done things wrong. He has violated the emolument clause on several fronts. He has a lot of weird business dealings that, just you can't trust. Like, it's just very, very shady. And you can easily impeach him on that. My issue is that Pelosi, the Democrats, Schumer, all these different people, for the past, what has it been now? Year and a half, 2+ years, they have been talking about about how Trump has violated all these laws. He's done all these unethical things. He's done all these things that he's breaking the law. He needs to be impeached. Day after day, month after month, year after year, for all this time, they have been talking about wanting to impeach Trump, and then all of a sudden, what a lot of us said. And I think Kyle Kalinske made this point. I think he was one of the first ones, if not the only person to say it, that if the Democrats are going to waste their political capital on impeaching Trump, they're not going to have much left to go after him on, because they're going to waste everything on impeaching Trump, and then what? You end up getting Mike Pence. So, if you're going to go out there and get rid of the white supremacist, pro white supremacist, racist, sexist, asshole, emoluments clause, lawbreaker, then, or whatever, Russian asset, whatever the hell you want to call him, you're going to end up getting the Christian fundamentalist, racist, anti-abortion, fucking, crazy white guy, basically, who, to Pence's credit, he's a really nice guy. He's not a blowhard like Donald Trump is. Donald Trump is he's a typical blowhard. He's a typical bully. He's a typical shit talker. Mike Pence is not like that. Mike Pence puts a smile on his face, and he makes everything look good, and he makes everything sound good, because he's smiling and he's not being an asshole. Of course, his policies are horrible. And he's been governor, he's been in the Congress. I think he was in the Senate, I believe, before was he? I think he was. He might have been in the Senate, right? Anyway, whatever it is, he's been in politics for so long. He was in the Tea Party. He was one of the main, if not maybe not the founders of the Tea Party, but one of the main people in the Tea Party movement. He was in the Tea Party caucus. And this is a guy that has so much clout among Republicans in Congress, whereas Trump is largely not liked by Congress. Now, obviously there's a lot of like members of Congress and Senate that will vote in favor of Trump's policies, but it's not like they're going to go out there and declare their love for him. That's kind of the underlying difference between somebody like Mike Pence and somebody like, I don't know, who's another guy that loves him. Who was it, like Chris Christie or something, or Peter King? I don't know. A bunch of guys in the Senate are like upset. What's it? Steve King. I think Steve King definitely likes him. So there's a bunch of guys that will come out to bat for Trump, but other ones won't. Now, I'm sure Pence would too. Pence is in the situation where he was chosen as VP. He decided to take that spot because maybe he'll run for president at some point, which is. Don't even get me started on that. But again, if you're going to make that guy president, after impeaching Trump, then you're going to be in a bigger shithole than you were back then. Because this guy's going to be able to pass a hell of a lot more legislation because he's liked by a lot more people, like I'm saying. That's my whole point. Mike Pence is liked by a hell of a lot more people in Congress than Trump is. So if he wants to go and push anti-abortion legislation, he wants to go push anti-union, anti-worker legislation, he's going to get it. He wants to push anti-healthcare legislation, he's going to get it. It's like these, especially if you have the Congress. Now, Congress obviously is in control of the Democrats, Senate is in control of the Republicans. But it's not smart to get rid of that guy that's terrible and then put somebody, in my opinion, who's even worse. And you're just going to get like a guy that's even craftier and has a nicer smile and sounds a lot better with his nice, sing-songy voice, compared to an asshole who's just yelling in the microphone all the time and talking shit like Trump does. So that narrative of impeaching Trump is just not going to work. My problem, again, like I said before, is that Nancy Pelosi and all these Democrats have been talking about impeaching Trump all this time. And then all of a sudden now they're backtracking. Because they see exactly what we were all saying all this time. They're saying that, oh, yeah, that's not going to be good. If we end up doing that, then we're not going to have enough political capital to do everything else, especially if we want to get him on, other charges. So get him on collusion. Yeah, we know we can't get him there because the Mueller report, A, doesn't show it, and B, there was never proven. There was never evidence of it. It was all circumstantial evidence, which is not enough to get you on collusion anyway. But then maybe like if we do him on if we try to get him on collusion, then we can't get him on obstruction. So maybe they're going to go after obstruction. I don't know. But whether that's going to lead to impeaching Trump, I don't think it's going to happen because that doesn't seem like the Democrats are going to do that. And it would have been stupid to do that from the beginning, like we all said, like progressives and leftists were saying from the beginning, because we don't want to get Mike Pence and we don't think it's going to be worth it anyway in the long run. So, that's what it is. And I don't know. If people don't want to accept that, then that's kind of their problem. But And I guarantee a lot of, I know a lot of Democrats are definitely banking on the possibility that Democrats will, a lot of the Dem loyalists are going out there and saying, yeah, impeach Trump, because they're obsessed with the idea of impeaching Trump because they want to get at Trump. They want to get rid of Trump because they hate Trump that much. But at the end of the day, you have to think of it in the long run. You have to think long game, If you think of the short game, yeah, impeach Trump, but then you end up getting Pence, you end up not being able to get Trump on anything else, and then that's it. He's gone. And nothing changes. If anything, things get worse. So I don't believe in that. I know a lot of progressives don't believe in that. And I mean, that's it. Just try and focus on the primary. So it seems like they're doing that. But the fact that you were pushing impeachment from the beginning and now all of a sudden you're not doing it anymore and you've lost interest, it's very peculiar. So anyway, guys, so this is going to be the end of the show. It ended up being 2 hours. We discussed most of the issues I want to talk about. I wanted to talk a little bit more about Julian Assange, obviously, but I'm going to have to run. I don't have any more time, today, but we can definitely do it another day. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate all my followers that did tune in, and hopefully you'll tune in next time. I just want to let you guys know to please, if you have a chance, please donate to my Patreon account, patreon.com/ProgBlacksmith, ProgBlacksmith, just like that. Patreon.com/ProgBlacksmith. If you can donate $1, $2, $3, $4, all the way up to $10. So if you can do that, I would really appreciate that. And thank you for listening, and thank you for watching. Thank you, and thank you for all the support that you guys gave me leading up to this happening. And I'm going to see you guys next Saturday. All right, take care.